All right, guys, I know you've been waiting for this, so let's just get into it. All right, I just want to talk about placement real quick. So if you watched the last video, you saw the full install on how to attach the paddle shifters to the steering wheel. And if you haven't watched it, go back and watch it. I chose towards the outside of the wheel here. Now, I'm still unsure if I'm going to like that or not. One thing that I did notice is it does contact the wheel. It still functions. Both of them still function. So it's just going to be a matter of driving it and see. Now, if you did want to choose to mount the paddle more inboard here, the best place would be right here for the screw. And that's where you do your first pilot hole. So install process would be the same. You just do your pilot hole here. You can't really go behind here, but you could get real close and it would relocate probably the paddle right here instead of being outboard. But we'll just have to see. If I have to buy a new wheel and redo it, if I don't like the paddles on the outside, so be it. Okay, so now how are we going to get these things to work? There were three options. Back in the forum days, there was a Bluetooth module you could use. You wire the paddles to in the wheel. There'd be a Bluetooth module in here, and then a receiver down by the shifter. And basically, it would create a wireless connection. So when you did the paddle shifters, it would shift. But that's no longer available. Other option, wiring directly through the clock spring. There's two variations of the clock spring. One has an additional 2-pin connector opening on the clock spring that's not used. So basically you'd run your one wire of each paddle through that connector, and then on the inner side, you'd run 2 wires down to the shifter, and then you just ground the other 2 wires at the wheel. And I think you used the LIN bus wire, and I think there's 2 variations of that, so you'd have to do some research on that. But in my case, my clock spring does not have the additional 2-pin connector on there, so that's not an option. So how am I going to do it? This is a transformer by ZAutomotive, and it has tons of options like adjusting the shift pressures, wind and drive versus auto stick, there's line lock, all that stuff. But the main feature that we're going to use is steering wheel shifting. And what that does, it allows the shifting to be done by the volume up and the volume down buttons on the steering wheel. It's going to take a little work because we have to solder 3 wires here on the back. So let me show you. All right, first thing we need to do is open this up. There's 4 tabs here, and then this backing plate will pop out. Just like that. And to be careful that when you pull this off, don't bend the pins. Just like that. And here's our board. And here's where we're going to solder to. Okay, I got my pins marked on the board. Right here is where you'll attach a wire for the shift up signal. Right here is where you'll attach a wire for the shift down signal. And then here will be your ground. You'll basically run 1 wire from here out, and then it'll Y to both shifters. Now the shifters are not polarity specific, it's just a momentary switch. So this will go to the right shifter, shift up, this will go to the left shifter, shift down, and then the 2 wires that aren't used will both be to this terminal here. So then when you have steering wheel shifting enabled with the transformer, you will put it in auto stick, and then you can use the paddles to shift up and down. Now, if you're not comfortable soldering, these are pretty tiny spots to solder to. Now would be a good time to phone a friend and see if they can help you out with that. So that handles the steering wheel wiring. There is some wiring involved with the transformer. These all attach to wiring under the dash near the TCM. Here's the cord. You can plug into your computer and fine-tune all the shift pressures and stuff. There's tons of tunability with this thing. Now here's the actual module that you'll install up under the dash. Comes with all the T-taps that you need to splice into the wiring. And if you go to the ZAutomotive website, you'll get a full detailed install instructions on there. And we'll go over it here in a minute. I did contact Joe at ZAutomotive and discuss this with him, and he verified this should work. Also found out he was the original supplier for the Bluetooth kit that used to be sold by the guy in the forums. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Obviously, if you did have the other clock spring, I'll post a picture of it, what it should look like. So if you tear apart your wheel, you can see which clock spring. That's the easiest way. 2 wires in, you have to go behind your steering column, 2 wires down to the shifter. Now, with the direct wire, and even with the Bluetooth kit, My main complaint with the manual shifting in these cars is the delay. Obviously, if you direct wire, you're still gonna have the delay. If you use the Bluetooth thing, if you can find one, somebody may be selling secondhand, there's gonna be a delay with that also. With the transformer, it is supposed to limit that delay, tighten it up. So hopefully we'll get crisper, more responsive shifts when using the paddles. All right, let's get the wires soldered to the board and get the steering wheel wiring done. And then we can verify the function by just turning the car on and see if the paddles adjust volume. If they adjust the volume up and down, we're good. Then we'll go into the dash, put the transformer in, and should be good to go. Okay, before we get started, I wanted to mention there are 2 different styles of these boards. I'll post the pictures now. Okay, now you can see that on the other style board, the wiring is different, but same concept. Okay, let's get these wires on here. Now, wire color does not matter. This is just some scrap wire I had laying around. Okay, that should do it. They're all on there. As far as reassembly goes, take our bezel, set that in there. And then we're gonna pass all the wires through this hole right here. Now when you do this, keep track of what wires you use for what. I'm using red for shift up and green for shift down. Maybe too much. Okay, I added another hole. Wires were getting too bunched up in there and not letting this seat down, so what I'll do is I'll take my common wire and it's gonna go through that extra hole I drilled. And these two. There we go. There we go. Buttons work. Let's put it in the car. Okay, I did add a piece of heat shrink on there just to protect the wires. Plug that thing in. It looks like we're gonna have to feed these wires through here first. Same place the factory harness goes through. And then we'll plug it in. Okay, we're gonna notch this for my harness to fit through there. All right, I had to take some material up through here and all through here to get that harness to sit right through there. Should be good. Just like that. Let's strip these wires to get them ready to connect to these. Now keep in mind, we still have the airbag to go in here. So you're gonna wanna keep your wires tidy. So I'm gonna kind of keep it up here at the top, just like the factory harness is. So we can take green from my left and connect it to one of these. And my right can just loop around, connect to one of these, and then we'll do the common wire. And it doesn't matter which ones you use, whether this is for the signal and this is to common or the other way around, it doesn't matter. We'll figure out some length here. Now ideally you'd have a connector in here so that all these wires plug into each other. So if you ever have to remove the wheel, this can be removed from the wheel. If you hardwire it, it's gonna have to stay with the wheel. I got some heat shrink here. Get that on there. Here's one. We do the right side, and that just has to make a loop. Okay, got the right signal wire done. I got my left signal wire done. Now we need to join the two remaining and the black together. Okay, here's what I got. A red wire for the right side going to one of the wires for the right paddle. My green wire for the left side going to one of my wires for the left paddle. And then the remaining two wires from the paddles both joined together, and Y into the black wire going to the switch. All right, let's test it. All right, here we go. Turn the car on. Got harness plugged in. Switch panel up. To start up. Okay, we got volume. Let's try the buttons. Volume up, volume down. Okay. Shift up, volume up. Try shift down, volume down. Up, down. So, when steering wheel shift is enabled with the transformer, this will act as shifting, which means these will act as shifting. Sweet. Works perfect. All right, transformer next. All right, I got the TCM connectors unplugged. They just have push tab here. There's a lower connector and an upper connector. And then we can start making our connections. First connection is the black with orange stripe wire on the top connector. And that's the only connection for the top connector. Now we move on to the bottom. All right, for the lower connector, you don't go by color, you go by pin number. And you can see the pins are all labeled. And to easily tell which wire, you gotta slide this cover off. And then now you can see what pin is what. Okay, I got my T-taps on the lower plug, and we're going to pins 36, 37, and 38. Now it's telling us to start plugging in the harness. Now when you go to plug these in, make sure this pin is centered. If not, then when you go to plug it in, it can actually slide to the side of these T-taps, and then you won't have a connection. Okay, I got my first round of connections made at the TCM. These three and this one up here. Next, we have to do CAN bus connections, and we're done. Okay, CAN bus connections are made at this harness that runs up to the steering column. We have 4 to make on here. Okay, there's my 4 taps on the steering column harness. It's basically all 4 white wires. Now we can make our other connections. Okay, and there we go. CAN wiring is connected. Now we can plug in the transformer. Okay, we're gonna verify that the transformer is functioning. So it wants us to start the car, and we should see red and green blinking for 5 seconds. Then blinks green. Okay, now put the car in drive, it should blink red. There we go, blinking red. Final check, it wants us to turn off the transformer by hitting the ESP button twice, and should hear a beep. There's a beep, and beep back on. So, I think it's functioning. All right, I think I got you guys set up to where you can see. I haven't changed any of the settings within the transformer, so this is default settings. I still haven't put everything back together, but we're gonna give it a try. So I'll put the shifter in auto stick, and here we go. Here we go, shift up. Oh yeah. Shift, shift, shift. It works. Shift down, shift down again, shift down again, shift up. Nice. It's pretty quick too. It's definitely shifting pretty hard, so I might have to adjust the settings try to calm it down a little bit, but so far that's awesome. It's pretty quick too. This much, it's way better than moving the shifter down there like you're in a scene from Fast and Furious. Works great. Better than using the shifter. Just a quick tap and it shifts. Man, the shift pressure is insane. Almost too much. Like to calm it down a little bit. I don't think I mind the placement sitting right here. I mean, you could reach if they're farther inside, but it's not bad. Now, it should still auto upshift just like normal. Shifts when you're on it, which is fine. We're in second gear. Idle, there you go. Third gear, fourth gear, fifth gear. Like that, and then same thing, go down a gear, down a gear, down to second gear. Pretty sweet. All right, well there you go. Hopefully that explains how to get the paddle shifters in these cars. I'm happy with it. It shifts surprisingly quick. The way it responds is quick. Quicker than factory auto stick, and yeah, hopefully you found this informative. Should make it much easier to get the paddle shifters on these cars. So if you got an early LX car like Charger, Challenger, Magnum 300, here you go. If you haven't already, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.